Garen, just final question. I mean, this would also be a sort of last attempt for some of these players to put up their hand for Bok selection. So, notably some of these Lions props.
Right.
And guys on the province backline, again, like Juan de Jong. I see Yakutata's back in the midfield with him, but I mean, it's their back three as well. I mean, there's some serious talent there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the last chance saloon for those players you mentioned, because the Springbok squad is going to be named on Monday morning, 11:30 apparently. They've already got 32 players in this Springbok camp that have been training in Stellenbosch this week. So it's difficult to know how many more are going to actually be included. They're saying they're going to pick a squad of 36. So if you just take those 32, which I don't think will all go, there is still room for some others. So, some of those will obviously come from overseas because they're not all at this camp. So, Heineken Meyer is going to obviously have a look at this team. I don't think outside of the Lions front row, maybe Warren Whiteley, obviously, Marnitz Boshoff perhaps, who's back at Fluff, and that's also a key position for them. And then the back three for the province. I don't think anyone out of there is going to make the cut. Obviously going to be some hard luck stories as well. Team players that on the day perform well, pick up man of the match awards, yet still don't get recognised in the Springbok squad. That's always the case. It's like you played well in one match, but doesn't warrant inclusion over the course of the season. So, but sure, they'll have that in the back of their minds. I think they'll probably be just focused on the 80 minutes, and worry about that, after the fact. So it'll be interesting. There's always comments after a Springbok squad is named. How did he make it? What happened to him? Is he injured? Is that the reason he's not there? So hard luck stories for sure. But it'll be interesting what Heineken chooses to do this weekend.
Rob, is there anyone in these two sides who you feel might get a sort of surprise call-up?
It is possible, a tricky one, because that Lions front row we've mentioned is definitely quality, and I think the best of them has probably been Skalk van der Merwe, the loosehead prop, who's had some really explosive matches, really sort of almost man of the match type of games at certain times, including the semi last week where he pretty much destroyed Matt Stevens, although that whole Sharks pack was going backwards at a rate of knots. So you've got to think that he's putting his hand up. However, there is a little bit of an existing pecking order. You've already got Beeston Tawarira, and you've got Trevor Nyakane, who tends to be the sort of the guy who's come on and generally done well. So I don't think Heineken Meyer will tamper too much. The question will be, will he perhaps be prepared to load certain positions and maybe take an extra prop or something, so that perhaps there's a gap available either for a tight head or a loose head or a sort of utility prop. I hope it's not a utility prop, because as Tank Lanning will tell you, utility props are often bad news. It's where you can't really decide whether he's a good tight head or a good loose head. And so I almost hope sort of that specialists hold sway, especially in Europe.
Yeah.
So if there is going to be a third loose head prop, I would certainly recommend Skalk van der Merwe. And then I suppose someone like Juan de Jong is absolutely gagging for a return to Springbok duty. He's played so well in the Currie Cup. He's also led Province pretty well. And he's shown in Europe before. Remember, I think he scored a fantastic X-Factor try against Wales, one of those sort of solo darting efforts that sort of broke open a game against Wales at the Millennium Stadium. So, he's well versed in playing in Europe. So I think a lot of people will be hoping that perhaps he gets into the mix. And in a squad of 36, there is going to be room for slightly an extension of the existing mix. So hopefully players like that will come into the picture.
I think adding on to what Rob said, I think the key is the 36-man squad. Normally I think there's 28 that go on a rugby championship tour. So at least 8 spots that have been freed up for players that are, obviously have a bright future ahead of them that might be included, even if they don't play or even included on the bench. They'll sort of get to train, get to mix with their heroes, some players that are more established. So, I wouldn't be surprised then if a couple of the Lions props are included, and the province back three, like you say. And also to be worth mentioning, I think, is the fact that John de Jong has been called up by the Barbarians. So he is going to be in the UK playing at Twickenham against the Wallabies on the 1st of November, which is just a week before the tour starts with the Springboks. So he'll be there already. So I don't know if he is included, if he pulls out of that game, it might be a risk factor, the injury coming in there. So interesting as well from that aspect. But yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if there are some bolters from the blue, if you like, in the Springbok squad on Monday.
Sport 24 live scoring for the final, and fans and viewers that might be at the games. What have you got a word for them?
Sure. If you want to follow our live updates on the Currie Cup final on Saturday, kicks off at 5 o'clock. Head over to sport24.co.za. We'll be having live scoring there. And if you happen to be at Newlands, please send your pictures through to mysport at sport24.co.za.